devastating earthquake that has struck eastern Afghanistan, one of the worst in recent memory. More than 800 people have been declared dead and nearly 2,800 are confirmed injured after a powerful quake, magnitude 6 on the Richter scale, hit just after midnight. Entire villages in the eastern provinces of Kunar and Nangarhar have been reduced to rubble. Visuals on your screens. Helicopters and rescue teams, they're still scrambling to ferry the wounded to hospitals, but survivors are still trapped under collapsed mud brick homes in remote mountainous areas near the Pakistan border, where mobile networks are down and access is difficult. Hence, there's a lot of problem with the rescue and rehabilitation done by the Taliban government. Authorities say that at least 3 villages in Kunar were completely razed, with more than 600 people killed right in those villages alone in Kunar. The Taliban administration admits the disaster has stretched its already limited resources. Afghanistan has been grappling with multiple humanitarian crises, and aid, mind you, has shrunk sharply since the Taliban seized power back in 2021. The health ministry is now calling for urgent international assistance, saying food, shelter and medical supplies are desperately needed. So far, no foreign governments have committed help, though China has expressed readiness to step in. The United Nations says it is preparing relief operations on their particular front. And this is the 3rd deadly quake since 2021. The last major tremor in 2022 killed more than 1,000 people in the east. Nearly half of Afghanistan's population today relies on humanitarian aid and assistance. Yet, funding has dropped from the $3.8 billion in 2022 to just $767 million this year. Rescue efforts are continuing, but officials are warning that the death toll, already crossing the 1,000 mark, more than 2,700 people injured, this could rise further as teams reach the remote areas that are cut off from the communication. Mind you, mountainous region, perils, and the ordeal of the Taliban administration to carry out rescue and relief operations, and they've already admitted that they've been stretched thin with all the resources that they have available at their disposal. And the extent of the aftermath of this 6.0 magnitude earthquake on the Richter scale is already something that Afghanistanis are reeling under at the moment. What's going to happen next? Well, tumultuous times. Meanwhile, yet another military tragedy in Pakistan. Shifting our focus here, the military is now dealing with a tragic helicopter crash in the northern Gilgit-Baltistan region. Take a look at this, visuals on your screens again. A Pakistani military helicopter that crashed near the Hudur village whilst flying from Gilgit to Chilas after developing a technical fault. Sadly, 4 personnel, including 2 pilots, lost their lives in the crash. However, 1 soldier managed to jump clear and survived the incident. The helicopter was flying through a difficult mountainous region, wind always playing its own personal factor and role here. And this mountainous region where the crash took place, it borders China and India. Authorities are investigating the cause of the crash particularly, and of course, watch on News 9 to keep you updated on any new developments. 4 people that have lost their lives, 2 pilots, 2 army personnel, 1 soldier that jumped clear and survived this particular clash. This is in Gilgit, a chopper crash of the Pakistan Army. Visuals from Quetta. 4 people that lost their lives in this chopper crash. Quite a few first responders that reached the spot, the crash site, as pictures tell us, but another military tragedy in Pakistan. But take a look at this. Up next, this piece of news comes from down under, Australia, where a wave of anti-immigration protests has now sparked concern. It sparked outrage and a swift response from the government as well. Thousands took to the streets in cities like Sydney, Melbourne, Brisbane, Adelaide, Perth, Canberra, under the banner of March for Australia, calling for an end. This end that is being called for what they claim is mass migration. But beyond the slogans and the sea of flags, authorities warn of a darker agenda. The Australian government has strongly condemned these rallies, linking them to far-right extremism and neo-Nazi elements. Officials have called the movement racist and divisive, saying it fuels hate and threatens social cohesion. Labour Ministry representative and the Labour Minister, Murray Watt, stated bluntly that these protests aren't about harmony but are driven by extremists. The government pointed to neo-Nazi figure Thomas Sewell, who has claimed ties to the protests. In Sydney alone, nearly 8,000 people joined the march, waving flags and chanting anti-immigration slogans. The demonstrations have left migrant communities deeply unsettled, particularly the Indian diaspora, which has been growing rapidly in Australia in the recent years. And this fear isn't unfounded. The rallies come amid a spike in attacks on Indian origin individuals across Australia in the recent months. Police deployed in large numbers across cities to prevent escalation, as counter-protests also gathered to defend Australia's multicultural identity. Though the rallies shook the nation, the government has now made it clear far-right extremism and hate have no place in a diverse, modern Australia. But visuals on the screens and the acrimonious scenes beam in to you right from the streets of the various big cities from Australia, right from Perth, Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide. Politically, tensions are high. Moving on, a big unrest in Indonesia has now forced President Prabowo Subianto to roll back the perks for the lawmakers. The decision comes after days of violent protests over what demonstrators called excessive salaries, housing allowances, and lavish foreign trips for parliamentarians. The protests, which began peacefully on Monday, spiraled into riots by Thursday after a ride-share driver was killed in police firing. Mobs later torched government buildings and even attacked homes of political leaders. Flanked by party chiefs at the presidential palace, Prabowo Subianto announced that the parliament will revoke key perks, including cuts to allowances and a freeze on overseas junkets. At the same time, the president warned rioters, calling the violence terrorism and treason. He has ordered police and the military to act tough against looting and arson. The crisis is being seen as the biggest test yet for Prabowo's just-a-year-old government, which until now had faced only mere and little opposition. Meanwhile, US President Donald Trump is tightening his grip on Washington. He's pushing for more direct control over how the federal government and its agencies operate. And the move marks a sharp challenge to the long-established norms of governance. They've got a report. Take a look.
Policies are lifting everybody.
US President Donald Trump is pushing for more control over everything the federal government and its agencies do, according to experts in presidential authority. They say a string of high-profile firings last week could undermine public trust in agencies that are meant to provide expertise while operating above party politics. In 3 days, Trump fired Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Susan Monarez, and railroad regulator Robert Primus. The administration has said Monarez and Primus were dismissed because they did not align with Trump's agenda. Monarez had resisted changes to vaccine policy that she believed contradicted scientific evidence, according to a close associate. Primus's social media included posts that could be read as critical of the Trump administration. Jane Manners, an associate professor of law at Fordham University, said Trump's firings could generate risks to institutions Monarez and Primus belonged to.
People who are in charge of making these really important decisions about safety of consumer products, public health, our economy. We don't want those people to be influenced by political pressure. We want instead their decisions to be based on expertise. They want them to be kind of bound by the rule of law. We want them to be based on evidence. We want them to be kind of subject to the rigors of decision making absent political pressure.
Meanwhile, the administration has accused Cook of mortgage fraud, which she denies. But Trump made clear another reason for her removal. He said Tuesday at a cabinet meeting he'll soon have a majority of loyalists on the Fed's Board of Governors, which helps set the interest rates that Trump wants lowered. Most US presidents steer clear of commenting about the Federal Reserve, let alone influencing monetary policy or knocking members off the Board of Governors. but Trump has challenged the norm.
In an unprecedented place already. How far it will go depends on how institutions and people respond, right? How will the courts respond? How will the voters respond? How will states respond? All of these things really matter right now for determining that future, for determining whether or not we end up in a truly authoritarian world.
Unlike ambitious US presidents who preceded him, Trump has so far faced little opposition from the co-equal branches of Congress and the Supreme Court. His decision to impose sweeping tariffs on other nations, which rattled markets, came despite a provision in the Constitution granting Congress the power over taxation and tariffs. A federal appeals court on Friday said Trump's approach had overstepped his authority in imposing tariffs. Daniel Farber is a constitutional law professor at the University of California, Berkeley.
He reduces a tariff and then something else happens and he changes his mind and raises the tariff. But what stays the same is the use of presidential authority, or what he at least believes is presidential authority, to make decisions that have really vast consequences for the economy, without any specific congressional authorization to pursue this policy. You know, part of the constitutional scheme, it's not just that courts could operate as a check, but Congress is supposed to be active in protecting its own rights and in, sort of generally standing up for, the interests of society where Congress disagrees with the president.
The conservative-dominated Supreme Court has also approved of some of Trump's assertions of executive authority. That includes his ability to fire members of nominally independent regulatory agencies.
In Kolkata, what began as a protest site has now turned into a major political flashpoint between the Trinamool Congress and the Indian Army. Tensions flared at the Murthy area, this is the Gandhi Murthy area, as the Eastern Command of the Indian Army dismantled the Trinamool Congress's Dharna Manch. Trinamool Congress leaders alleged that the army is being used to silence democratic protests. The TMC claims that they were not informed in advance and that dismantling the structure should have been the job of the event decorators and not the Indian Army or the military. Hitting out at the center, Mamata Banerjee alleges that 200 army personnel dismantled the stage. Army is being misused by the BJP. She raised questions about how the army could have been consulted. They could have consulted the police commissioner and the DG of the police. And though the army has clarified that the stage was constructed on land under its jurisdiction and permission had only been granted for a few days, and that permission for events greater than 3 days need to be obtained from the Government of India. Permission for conducting event at the site was provided, but only for 2 days. However, the stage had been put up for almost a month and several reminders were sent for removal of the temporary structure, but it was not removed. And that's why the army took matters into their own hands. This is army land. It falls under the Indian military's jurisdiction. Any event beyond 3 days, permission has to be obtained from the Government of India. For 2 days, the army had given permission, it seems, but after that, and after various reminders to dismantle this Dharna Manch, it wasn't being done, which is why the Indian Army took it up. Now the TMC is saying that the BJP is using the Indian Army to shut down and clamp down on peaceful protests.
देखिए, जो सेना ने किया है देश के लिए किया है, देश का जनता के लिए किया है, बिना परमिशन में। सबके लिए विचार एक ही होना चाहिए। बिना परमिशन ने तृणमूल सरकार का कोई जगह में जाके वो खुद अपना प्रॉपर्टी समझ लेते हैं, ये नहीं होना चाहिए। हम लोग को परमिशन लेके भी पुलिस हम लोग को रोकते हैं, मंच तोड़ देते हैं, लेकिन वहाँ पे बिना परमिशन से कैसे ये लोग करेंगे, क्योंकि इनका मुख्यमंत्री तृणमूल का है, तृणमूल सरकार का है। तो जो सेना ने किया है ये ठीक किया है।
So those are the reactions. Lokesh Chatterjee saying that whatever the Indian Army did was the right step to be taken, because as per rules, the Indian Army was well within their right to dismantle the Dharna Manch. But the Trinamool Congress that was carrying out this protest, saying that the Indian army is now being used by the BJP, its powers being usurped by the BJP to clamp down on peaceful protests. Meanwhile, another set of big news coming in from Kolkata, because the Mamata Banerjee government in West Bengal has bowed down to Islamist hardliners who forced a show organized by the West Bengal Urdu Academy to be cancelled. Now, some Islamist groups compelled the organizers of the Kolkata literary event to cancel a show titled Urdu in Hindi Cinema for inviting renowned lyricist and poet Javed Akhtar as the chief guest. He was to preside over a key mushaira on the 1st of this month. And following the invite, two prominent Islamist organizations in Kolkata, the Jamaat-e-Ulema-e-Hind and the Vayahin Foundation, protested the invitation of Javed Akhtar, labeling Javed Akhtar as someone who speaks against religion and God. Akhtar has publicly identified himself as an atheist. Meanwhile, terming Javed Akhtar's invitation as inappropriate, the groups even threatened of protests if the invitation to the poet-lyricist wasn't withdrawn. Wary of escalating tensions ahead of an election year, the government, Trinamool Congress-led government, has chosen to cancel the event altogether, which is why questions are now being asked whether this move was for appeasement, whether this is abject failure of the West Bengal government. Are they cowing down to the Islamists' directions? Those are some questions that are now being asked. All right, then, shifting our focus here from West Bengal, let's take you across to big developments coming in from Karnataka. And in the latest updates coming in from Dharmasthala, BJP State President B.Y. Vijayendra today, he visited the revered Manjunath temple seeking divine blessings, even as the party began its high-voltage rally, Dharmasthala Chalo. Flanked by key leaders including Chalwadi Narayanaswamy, MLA Muniratna, and senior party officials, B.Y. Vijayendra's visit marks more than just a spiritual gesture. It's a calculated political messaging. After prayers, the BJP brass moved to a strategic huddle, first with party workers, then behind closed doors with senior leadership, charting the road ahead. At the heart of this Dharmasthala Chalo movement is the call for what party leaders are terming justice for Dharmasthala. The BJP is demanding an NIA probe into the controversial mass burial case, a case that has stirred both public sentiment and political heat. Leader of opposition, Chalwadi Narayanaswamy, minced no words, slamming what he called leftist attempts to malign a sacred place. His message, and I quote, "This is a place of worship, not a political battleground," unquote. The BJP is making its position clear. It stands with Dharmasthala and it is ready to take the battle to Delhi if need be. Union Minister Prahlad Joshi, Shobha Karandlaje, Somanna, core committee leaders and district presidents, they're all going to be marching as the Karnataka BJP is throwing its full weight behind the Dharmasthala Chalo campaign. The Congress, however, is pushing back the ruling party in the state, urging the BJP to keep politics out of places of faith. Moving on, the Apex Court has today directed the Bihar Legal Services Authority to step in and assist voters in the ongoing voter registration process. The court noted that the Election Commission's assurance that claims and objections to the draft roll will be accepted even after the September 1st deadline, and therefore did not extend the date of the special intensive revision itself. Instead, the Apex Court has asked the Bihar Legal Services Authority to issue instructions to all district authorities to deploy paralegal volunteers who will help voters and political parties file claims, objections, and corrections online. The Supreme Court has further clarified each volunteer will submit a confidential report to the district and sessions judge, and the information will then be collated by the State Legal Services Authority. Moving on to the state of Maharashtra, where Chief Minister Devendra Fadnavis has called an urgent meeting at his Varsha residence over the ongoing Maratha agitation. The meeting on Maratha reservation is being attended by Deputy Chief Ministers Eknath Shinde and Ajit Pawar, Sub-Committee Chairman Radhakrishna Vikhe Patil, and retired Justice Sandeep Shinde. And after today's meeting, the government is expected to hand over a fresh proposal to Maratha leader Manoj Jarange Patil through the Shinde Committee. With Ajit Pawar also joining in now, the political weight of this meeting has certainly gone up sharply. And what proposal is being handed over to Jarange Patil? Well, all eyes on that particular front. All right, coming up next is your monsoon tracker. You've got Union Home Minister Amit Shah, who's already visited the flood-hit areas of Jammu. We'll start with that. Well, the Union Home Minister was accompanied by Lieutenant Governor Manoj Sinha and Chief Minister Omar Abdullah. Amit Shah stopped on the Tawi Bridge. This is near the Bikram Chowk as he inspected the damage along the riverbanks. Amit Shah had reached Jammu on Sunday night to assess the flood situation and the relief efforts. He is likely to undertake an aerial survey of the flood-hit areas later in the day today as well. And he also chaired two separate crucial meetings at the Raj Bhavan on flood relief particularly and the damage caused to the border security grid by the flash floods. Mind you, more than 130 people lost their lives and 33 people still feared missing in the aftermath of those cloudbursts, the landslides and flash floods in Kishtwar, Kathuar, Riasi and Ramban districts since the 14th of August. Record rainfall during 26th and 27th of August caused flash floods in the low-lying areas in Jammu and other plains, causing heavy damage to the infrastructure there. The dead include 34 pilgrims who were hit by a landslide en route to Mata Vaishno Devi Shrine on the 26th of the last month.
26 अगस्त को जम्मू संभाग में भारी बारिश हुई, लैंडस्लाइड हुआ और कई जगहों पे क्लाउड बर्स्ट हुआ। 50 से ज़्यादा जानें अभी तक बाढ़ बारिश की वजह से जा चुकी हैं। वहीं केंद्रीय गृह मंत्री अमित शाह जम्मू में पहुंचे हैं और यहां पर पूरी बाढ़ बारिश को लेकर आकलन किया जा रहा है कि किस तरीके से यहां पर भारी नुकसान हुआ है। गृह मंत्री अमित शाह द्वारा पहले जो तवी है वहां पर गए, तवी के किनारे पूरी तरीके से जो डैमेजेस हाउस थे उनका यहां पर जायज़ा लिया। जो तस्वीरों में आप साफ तौर पे देख सकते हैं कि कितने यहां पर जो डैमेज हाउस है उनका यहां पर जायज़ा जो है गृह मंत्री अमित शाह द्वारा लिया गया। उसके साथ साथ गृह मंत्री की तरफ से जो बैठक है वो राजभवन में की गई। इस बैठक में जम्मू कश्मीर के उपराज्यपाल मनोज सिन्हा, उनके साथ साथ कई सीनियर अधिकारी जो है वो शामिल रहे। गृह मंत्री की तरफ से ये जो दौरा है ये ख़ास तौर पे फ्लड जो जम्मू संभाग में ज़्यादातर यहाँ पर प्रभाव हुआ है उसको देखते हुए गृह मंत्री द्वारा यहाँ पर पूरा आकलन जो है वो यहाँ पर किया गया। वहीं आपको बता दें कि बाढ़ बारिश की वजह से तकरीबन 50 से ज़्यादा लोगों की जानें गई है। वहीं कई प्रॉपर्टीज़ को डैमेज जो है वो भी यहाँ पर हुआ है। कई राष्ट्रीय राजमार्ग के जो संपर्क है वो भी यहाँ पर टूट चुके हैं।
Moving on, shifting our focus to Punjab, because amidst the monsoon fury gripping several states in India, Punjab too is currently grappling with severe floods. Punjab government today has announced the closure of all colleges, universities and polytechnic institutes till the 3rd of September following incessant rainfall across the state. Punjab is witnessing massive floods caused by the swollen up rivers, the Satluj, the Beas and the Ravi rivers, as well as seasonal rivulets due to heavy rainfall in their catchment areas. Of course, affected by the heavy and intense rainfall in Himachal Pradesh and Jammu and Kashmir as well. The worst affected villages are in the districts of Gurdaspur, another border district, Pathankot, another border district, Fazilka, Kapurthala, Taran, Firozpur, Hoshiarpur and Amritsar. Now Jalandhar is also facing severe flooding and waterlogging after heavy rain. The city of Jalandhar is submerged completely. We're looking at shops, homes, roads flooded, leaving several people stranded and facing immense hardships. The Met Department has cautioned that the intensity of rainfall is expected to increase, which could lead to more waterlogging in the low-lying areas and gridlock traffic.
पंजाब सरकार बड़ी मुस्तैदी के साथ, बड़े अच्छे ढंग के साथ ग्राउंड पे ऊपर उतरी हुई है। पूरा हम लोगों के साथ खड़े हैं, इस दुख की घड़ी में लोगों का साथ दे रहे हैं। पर लेकिन हमारे माननीय मुख्यमंत्री सर भगवंत सिंह मान जी ने 2 दिन पहले एक लेटर जो है देश के प्रधानमंत्री साहब को लिखा था कि हमारे 60,000 करोड़ रुपए जो हैं वो सेंट्रल सरकार की तरफ बकाया पड़े हैं, वो तुरंत जारी किए जाएं। अभी तक उनका कोई रिस्पॉन्स नहीं आया।
Regarding the situation in Punjab, State Minister Harpal Singh Cheema has already said that there has been significant damage, but Punjab Police is actively deployed on the ground. Chief Minister Bhagwant Singh Mann has written a letter to the Prime Minister requesting the immediate release of 60,000 crore rupees. The Indian Army is actively conducting rescue and relief operations meanwhile across the state. not just Punjab but Himachal Pradesh and Jammu as well. Colonel Arora stated that the Western Command has established flood control and water level monitoring cells. More than 5,000 civilians and 300 paramilitary personnel have been rescued from inundated areas. Approximately 21 tons of relief material, including food packets, we're talking medicines, various kinds of rehabilitation material, has been delivered so far.
The Army has launched extensive flood relief and rescue operations in Jammu, Punjab and Himachal Pradesh, demonstrating swift response, meticulous preparedness and seamless coordination with civil agencies. Operations commenced on 16-17 August 2025 and an assessment of the developing flood situation was taken, with troops, engineer, medical detachments and aviation assets mobilized at short notice to safeguard lives and restore essential services. Flood relief columns were fully prepared, trained and equipped to undertake HADR missions, and on receiving requisitions from the civil administrations, these columns were swiftly deployed across affected areas.
All right, then moving on, take a look at this. A Canara Bank regional manager, this is in Kochi in Kerala, who recently took charge, has found himself at the center of a controversy after he ordered a ban on beef in one of the branch's office canteens. Miffed with the forceful restriction, employees launched a protest in the form of a beef festival right outside the office. The Bank Employees Federation of India, the BEFI, was initially protesting against what they perceived is the manager's mental harassment and insulting behavior towards officials. Later, the federation learned about the beef ban in the office canteen and then redirected the protest to address the issue. The demonstrators organized a beef feast, serving beef and parota right outside the office. Some Kerala politicians also backed the protest. Kerala has seen similar beef protests in the past against the central government's 2017 directive on cattle sales for slaughter. Left-backed independent MLA K.T. Jalil backed the demonstration, asserting that no Sangh Parivar agendas would be allowed in Kerala. News coming in from the world of sports, a landmark moment for women's cricket. The International Cricket Council has announced a massive four-fold increase in prize money for the Women's World Cup 2025, which will be hosted in India from the 30th of this month till the 2nd of September. The total prize pool now stands at $13.88 million. That's almost 300% higher than the last edition and even bigger than the Men's World Cup held in India last year. The winners will take home $4.48 million. The runners-up get $2.24 million and semi-finalists will earn over $1 million each. Even teams finishing last are guaranteed about $280,000. The 13th edition will be played across Guwahati, Indore, Navi Mumbai, Visakhapatnam and Colombo. ICC chairman Jai Shah called it a defining milestone, saying women cricketers must know that they'll be treated on par with men if they choose this sport professionally. With higher prize money, pay parity and global attention, the women's game is entering a whole new era, and the 2025 World Cup promises to be a spectacle like never before.